On a hot June night in 1969, the New York City Police Department raided the Stonewall Inn, a popular gay bar in Greenwich Village. At the time, homosexuality was a crime in New York, and raids of gay bars were a regular occurrence. However, this raid and this night were different from any seen before. The raid turned into a street riot that lasted 6 days and was the major turning point in the gay rights movement in America and around the world. Now, 50 years later, LGBT activists and supporters are putting a spotlight on the night, the players, and even the location that continued to inspire and impact all in the fight for equality. As 13 celebrates the summer of '69 with its multi-platform experience, tonight we explore LGBT activism then and now and celebrate World Pride and the Stonewall's 50th anniversary. Here with some perspective that you probably won't find anywhere else, and we're delighted to have with us Mark Siegel. Mark was at the Stonewall the night of the raid. 18-year-old newcomer to New York at the time, Mark became a founding member of the Gay Liberation Front following his arrest and is the current publisher of the Philadelphia Gay News. Mark is also a proud Grand Marshal of this year's Pride Parade. Cecilia Gentili is a transgender activist who is the former managing director of policy and public affairs at the Gay Men's Health Crisis, the world's first and leading provider of HIV/AIDS prevention care and advocacy. She is now the principal of Transgender Equality, a consulting company. And Kathy Renna. Kathy, the former media relations advisor for GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. She's also one of the most prominent lesbian activists in the country and currently is the principal of Target Q, an LGBT-focused public relations firm. Friends all, and we are delighted to have you all here with us today. So we have, as you can tell from the introduction, we have a lot for us to talk about. So let me start the conversation by setting the context for the time in 1969. There are a lot of young people out there who don't know what happened and why it all happened. So let's get a little backdrop here. So Mark, tell me, what was life like? You're a young man who's come to New York City, a young gay man. So what was life like for a gay man in New York City in 1969 before the Stonewall riots?
18 years old, like many other gay kids. In my city, there was no gay life. I didn't think anyone existed. The only place I knew gay people existed was New York City. And in New York City, there were the beatniks, there were the hippies, and there were no signs saying, oh, go this way to find the gay people. So you figured they were in Greenwich Village with all those hippies and beatniks. And you went down there and you searched. And eventually, as my friend Jerry Hughes used to say, he found Christopher Street and Nirvana. I found my people. They're there. And you literally on Christopher Street would go there every single night and you'd walk up and down the street. You'd stop into the Silver Dollar Diner, have a cup of coffee. You'd walk up to the other end of Christopher Street and you might go into a place called Stonewall.
So you found a home, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
Christopher Street,
New
York City
was my home.
When you were
Yes.
18 years old. Again, for context, I mentioned in the introduction that it was a crime to engage in homosexual activity. Well, tell me again, what sort of restrictions were on you and what legally life was like for a gay person back then?
When you were walking up and down Christopher Street, you couldn't hold hands. You couldn't kiss. You couldn't show any form of affection whatsoever because the police were still patrolling Christopher Street. They did that by having a beat cop on the block, and they did it with cars. Aside from that, people from Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, or Jersey might come in to harass or even beat you up. We were nothing.
So it was a location for both gay celebration and gay bashing at the same time.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about then what happens in that hot June night of 1969. How did it all play out in the bar?
Well, people have to realize that while the bar was mafia-controlled, and it had to be because it was illegal to serve a known homosexual in the state of New York, you would lose your liquor license. So when you went into Stonewall, you would notice that the windows were all boarded up, and it had double very tight wooden doors. You could not see in the bar. Inside the bar, it was black, red, and wood colored. That's all. but it didn't matter. The drinks might have been watered down because on the street, you might have been harassed, you might have been beat up, you couldn't do what you wanted to do. Inside that bar, you could hold hands, you could kiss, and what an 18-year-old kid wants to do, he wants to dance. And you could dance there. And that's what I remember.
Let me ask both of you
It was a place of joy, and it was a safe place.
Both of you jump in on that. And the role that the Stonewall Inn played in the lives of gay people. And Mark talked about it a little bit. But not just the day-to-day role, but the symbolic role. How would you describe it? Celia, you first.
I came
Kathy,
to New York City in 2002, I believe. And the first thing that I was taken to was the Stonewall, you know, and Christopher Street. And, you know, and I was like, you know, I started, you know, my transition at age 17 in Argentina. And before that, I came out as gay at age 12. But still having an identity already, like, you know, affirmed as who I am, like the discovery of Christopher Street and the Stonewall Inn was one of those moments that I will never forget, you know. So historically, you know, for us, that place and that area and that space means so much, means like a space of freedom and a space of like authenticity and a space of like friendship and family, a sense of family.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, I remember walking in Christopher Street and, you know, walking to Stonewall and like people that I didn't know would come, you know, and talk to me and like, you know, which is not a New York thing, you know, people don't talk
That's
to
not
me.
one of the first things people talk about. You know, Kathy, talk about that. Kathy, talk about the notion of a safe place and the notion of family.
Sure. I mean, as someone who born and raised in New York City, in Queens, the Stonewall's always been an iconic historic spot. It's where we go when something bad happens. It's where we go when something good happens. It really, and it's representative and symbolic of, I think, the spaces that we have created as a community now all over the country and all over the world. But as Mark was saying, in those early years, there were not many safe spaces at all. And even, you know, as a mafia-run place that was raided by the police all the time, you could argue the Stonewall Inn wasn't necessarily the safest space either, but it was a place we could go for community. It was a place where you could realize that you were part of something bigger, that you were not alone. I mean, I think that still happens today for kids who are coming out. And, you know, I was in Washington.
What becomes your literal and figurative home?
Well, right, exactly. I mean, last week I was at Pride in Washington, D.C., and I saw more young people, teenagers, and I'm the parent of a 14-year-old, than I've seen at any Pride ever. You are seeing kids come out younger and younger. And what you see on their faces is, wow, I really am part of something bigger. I mean, you can be on Instagram, and you can be on social media and know that there's a large gay community. You can turn on the TV and see that. But
not back then.
Well, not back then, but now. But
right.
You can to physically see it is a totally different emotion, a totally different feeling. And yes, back then, that was all we had.
Right.
We had to go and find our tribe.
Right. Let me come back to you and that night. Let me ask you to add one more element, because you talked about what would be considered illegal. You know, holding hands, kissing on the street.
Wearing the other sex clothes.
Yes. Well, I wanted to ask you that, because there was a law about items of clothing.
Three items of clothing.
Right.
If you have more than 3 items of clothing of the opposite sex, you could be arrested.
Yeah. And that is fairly astonishing, I think, to people looking back, to understand that that was actually a law on the books and enforced.
Yeah.
Right. Now, speaking about enforced, let's talk about that night. Kathy mentioned routinely the police would come in and raid the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What happened that night?
My memory of it is the police, the lights blinked on. I looked over at my friend and said, "What's going on?" Because I'd only been in New York 6 weeks. They said, nonchalantly, "It's a raid." Mm-hmm. That made me feel a little nervous. I'd never been in a raid in my life.
But the other folks were like, yep,
they were
part of the activity?
Yeah, they were used to it. And the Stonewall itself had been raided before. Right. It was the usual pattern for the police to come in. It was part of the whole corruption scheme. They pretended the bar didn't exist, and they found out this illegal bar existed. They would go in, they would confiscate things, they would get money, get a payoff. But what they did that night was push people around, shove them up against the wall, walls. And then they went to what shocked me the most that night, and my most vivid memory is they would go up to people that looked like they were successful, ask them to take their wallet out, and they would take the money and put it in their pocket.
Wow.
This is the police stealing.
Thinking these
in
people
plain
don't
sight.
want to
We don't
know
mean
that they were
anything to
here,
them.
so they're not going to come
Never
after
say
us for the money
anything.
they
Sure.
took. So now the raid is taking place. People getting pushed, shoved, moved around, robbed in there. What happens outside that night?
Well, slowly but surely, they're carding people, which is kind of funny because it's a legal bar anyway, and they're carding us to get outside. Eventually, there are more of us outside than there were inside, because at one point it was just the police who had raided the bar, and that was 6 police officers. I'm told it was 6, plus the bar staff. And now there are about 50 to 75 people surrounding the front door. Anybody else who had lived in the tri-state area and had family, anybody who had prospects for a future, anybody who was a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher ran for the subway the minute they got out. The only people left around that bar were drag queens, street people like myself, and people of color who basically had no prospects. We stood there, and they came out the door and said, disperse. We didn't disperse.
Was there an organized decision to say, no, we're not going to disperse?
No.
Or was it a more organic saying, we've had enough, we're not moving?
It was organic that we all said we had enough. There had been in the previous few weeks, Marty Robinson on the men's side and Martha Shelley on the women's side, people organizing and saying, we have to do more. But that really didn't take root until that night. That night, something happened that we just wanted to fight back. We'd all had enough of the oppression. We had watched as the black community was fighting back. We had watched as the women's community was fighting back. We had watched as the Latino community was fighting back. And I think collectively we all said, what about us? What about me?
It's time. Let me ask the two of you to jump in with perspectives on this, because we see it often referred to as the Stonewall riots. A number of days this resistance went on. There was physical damage and violence. I've also seen it described as the Stonewall Rebellion. And I'm wondering if you think that the word carries a significant impact. Riot is one thing, but rebellion, does it suggest something else, do you
And
think?
revolution.
Kathy,
Right. It totally does to me. I mean, I think a riot is not something that would necessarily have a tremendous amount of ripple effect and impact. So I really see it more as an uprising, as a rebellion. These are people who had nothing to lose. As Mark said, the folks who were a little worried about their jobs or their families scattered. And so you were left with trans folks, people of color, the queer kids that were on the street. And they decided, we've had enough, and we're going to fight back, and we're fed up. But what they did was spark a movement for all of us. And I think that's what we kind of need to recognize. That this wasn't just, I mean, a riot, when you asked if it was organized, it's a riot. Riots aren't organized. And maybe this wasn't organized at all. But what it did was it organized us.
Oh. And let's talk about what happened as a consequence and how that organization started to fall into place. And probably a good place to go is the next year, 1970, the first Pride March in New York.
You're jumping past a whole lot of stuff that happened.
All right. Remember, we only got a half hour here. So give me a list of some of the things that gets us to 1970.
This is the most important part of LGBT history that's been censored.
Right.
So starting that night, Marty Robinson shows up with chalk. He tells several of us, right on the walls in the street, tomorrow night, Stonewall. That's how the second night of Stonewall happened. Second night of Stonewall, Martha Shelley and Marty Robinson are speaking from the front doors of the Stonewall. And it was illegal for gay people to congregate. We are literally saying to the police, we dare you to stop us. That's rebellion. Third and fourth nights, we're leafleting on the street publicly and telling the police, this is our neighborhood, we're taking it back. By the fifth and sixth nights, we're organizing Gay Liberation Front. And guess what? All those people writing in chalk, all those people speaking at the doors, all those people leafleting, they all became Gay Liberation Front. Gay Liberation Front became the first organization in America to be diversified and inclusive of all people. And it also was the first
Literally
unified.
was born on that street.
Born on that street, born
during those
on that night.
6 days. Yeah.
Yeah. It also was the first organization to not only accept people of color, trans people, and street kids like myself at that time, it also unified our community from lesbian separatists to fairy male communes. All connected because we were united to fight the oppression over the last 2,000 years, all that we discovered from Stonewall. Stonewall and GLF are synonymous.
Talk about some of the organizations, and we mentioned the 1970 parade. Talk a little bit about what other organizations came out of that.
Well, I mean, it was GLF that really
GLF
put
was
together was really it. I mean,
Right.
there were organizations prior, Mattachine, Daughters of Bilitis. Those were the folks that were picketing in front of the White House, picketing in front of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, starting in the mid-'60s. But I think it was GLF that really propelled the movement to start organizing in a large way. In other words, putting together the first prides in New York and San Francisco and Los Angeles in 1970. You know, never seen anything like it. Thousands of people willing to be out there, willing to get in the street, willing to carry signs saying that they were gay. Parents who were willing to carry signs that said, "My son is gay and I love him." I mean, that was monumental and historic in terms of the visibility, because at the end of the day, it was about making our community visible so we would be less abstract to the rest of the country. Because it wasn't just illegal to be gay at that time. It was a mental illness until 1973.
Sure,
we were in the DSM.
we did a segment where we talked
absolutely.
about they would bring people, they would do lobotomies on people,
Yes.
shock,
Horrifying.
electric
Just
shock
horrifying.
therapy,
30,000
because it was viewed,
lobotomies.
it was viewed as a mental
Yep.
illness. So let's sort of move us to where we are now, because we have the springboard, and certainly decades in between. So I don't want to make it sound like this was instantaneous here. But let's look at, in the minutes we have left, let's look at where we are now and where we still need to go. Right? So the major, if we wanted to catalog the major successes in the movement, let's say in the last decade. The last decade, I think, has been pretty significant. What sort of things would we be pointing to?
Marriage equality.
Well, I'd
was
say
one of
marriage
them.
equality, the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I think just our overall visibility as a very large, very diverse community. I mean, the fact is, initially, our community was not portrayed in a very diverse way. That's gotten a lot better, and we still have a long way to go, both in the media and in the public sphere. But there's a whole lot more work to do. We don't have federal legislation that protects us in the workplace.
Equality Act must be passed.
Right.
You know, you can still be
I think,
fired in 20-something
yeah.
states.
You could get
and-
married and be fired for getting married in most states in America.
Correct.
Because we know we have federal laws, but we need state laws.
I think
People
I
have
think
to
like
understand
that's
there are
the-
different venues. Go ahead.
That's the difference, though. Like, you know, with the federal law at this point, it doesn't seem like it's much that we can achieve with under this administration. And I find it like really disappointing, the fact, like, you know, we have to go in these roller coasters. Like, depending who is, you know, in the federal government, we are either okay or terribly bad, you know. So, you know, I feel like always an unease of, like, you know, how it plays in our lives, right? But I think like that is also an amazing opportunity for a state like New York to step up, right? And do like whatever we are not getting from the federal government, like, you know, the state can make up, right? And like, you know, yesterday, 2 pieces of amazing legislation passed, which was panic defense legislation for what, like, you know, people are not going to be able to say, like, you know, I saw Cecilia, and when I realized that she was trans, I panicked, and that's why I lost it, and I beat her to death,
And I
right?
should have a defense to my assault.
The trans panic defense was banned, and that was like a really, really important piece of legislation. The other piece of legislation would be a piece of legislation that would make surrogacy legal, which is such a shame that in the state of New York we couldn't. We couldn't use surrogates, right? And that's not only for gay and trans people; it's for anybody that needs a surrogate, right? But you know, it affects specifically our community. You know, the pass of gender has been very important. The fact that, you know, people cannot be discriminated for their gender identity or their gender expression. But we have a lot more to go for. Like, we have, like, you know, to secure, rights for not for the only for the LGBT, but specifically, you know, for my community, the transgender community continues to, you know, come short when it comes to education, when it comes to employment, when it comes to housing, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to legal assistance. So, I think for the LGBT community, and in my case, specifically for the trans community, we have an incredible opportunity to do wonderful things in the state level.
One of the concerns, I think, of movements such as yours is, as there is this sort of incremental success, and sometimes some larger leaps, there is a concern that younger people, younger members of the LGBT community, might not know the history. They might not know the story of Stonewall. They might not know that their lifestyle was a crime just 50 years ago.
Well, I have a book.
I know, and it's a good one. But are you concerned that this newest generation, now having freedoms that you all did not have in the early stages of your life, that there might be a loss of impetus? There might not be the same sense of urgency to say, we need to continue to push here.
I don't necessarily get that. I mean, what I get is maybe they don't know their history, but that's because it's not taught in schools. Right. In California and New Jersey are the only states that have implemented any legislation to try and make inclusive curricula. I think for example, as an activist coming out, I was fascinated with history. So I figured out who Mark Siegel was and Barbara Giddings was and Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. So I know whose shoulders I stand on. I think there's less of that, but I don't hold that in judgment. We don't tell these stories. We don't cover them as much in the media as they should be, which is why I'm so glad that the 50th anniversary of Stonewall is such a platform and opportunity to do that. I think the interesting thing about the current generation is that for them, they understand multiplicity of identity in a way that my generation doesn't. And I think that's really important, because when Cecilia talks about the trans community is under siege in a way that people within our own community, the adults I'm talking about, do not understand. So I think young people actually, they do get that.
Yeah.
They get it because they live it, and they are surrounded by people who are much more diverse than maybe we had the chance to grow up around.
You talk about the media. What more should the media be doing, do you think? What more can the media do to get these messages out and to understand that this is a continuing struggle?
Well,
Go ahead.
I think that help with visibility, right? Help with putting LGBTQ people in spaces where they're visible, right? And whatever capacity, it's great to be here as someone that came as an invitee. But I would like to see more LGBT people in the other side too. So sure. I think the media has a great opportunity to just make space for people that identify as LGBTQ to be visible.
Real quick, Kath, what do you think?
Sure. I mean, it's all about telling more diverse stories. And until the media itself diversifies more, I hear stories every day on my social media about trans women of color who are the victims of hate crimes. And how long I've worked on these issues, right? Particularly around media. The question I get for the last 20 years, why did Matthew Shepard's murder get so much attention and all these other murders don't? Because the media doesn't cover all the other ones. You do the math. If they're, particularly trans people of color, we have to care more. We have to get over our own issues around transphobia and racism and classism and make those stories important stories, just as important as Matt's, because Matt's parents have spent 20 years trying to increase awareness because they know other families have not had that opportunity. And that's their legacy. And that's what all of us need to be doing, is to push for more diverse stories and more opportunities to talk about what's happening in our community on a broader level.
It's a perfect last thought for us to wrap up. So, Mark, Cecilia, Kathy, it's a pleasure to talk with all of you, to get your stories out there. And you're all doing marvelous work in your own areas to get that all done. And we're glad we could help a little bit to get those stories out. So thanks so much, the three of you, for joining us here. We appreciate it. And on behalf of all of us at Metro Focus, we wish you all and all of you at home a happy and safe Pride weekend. I'm Jack Ford. Have a good night.